Welcome to the Parkrun Brief, the weekly parkrun podcast where I break down what we've published this week on www.parkruntraining.co.nz and turn it into practical coaching advice you can use this Saturday. For the Sunday reset, why consistency beats intensity every time. If you spend enough time around runners, you'll hear plenty of stories about big workouts, the killer interval session, the epic long run, the week where everything clicked and the mileage suddenly doubled. These sessions make for great conversation. They're memorable, they feel important, but when it comes to long-term improvement, they're really the reason runners succeed. The runners who make the biggest progress aren't usually the ones who have the occasional brilliant week. They're the ones who keep showing up week after week, month after month, year after year, because consistency beats intensity every time. The seduction of hard work. Hard sessions are satisfying. You finish feeling accomplished. Your watch records impressive numbers. You feel like you've earned your fitness. The problem is that many runners start believing that harder sessions always equals better. So when progress slows, they respond by running faster, adding more sessions, pushing harder during workouts, and turning easy runs into moderate runs. For a short period, this can work, but eventually fatigue catches up, consistency suffers, and the fitness stops improving. Fitness is built through repetition. The body doesn't care how impressive one workout was. What matters is the training you can repeat. Aerobic fitness develops through repeated exposure to training stress over time. Not one session, not 1 week, not 1 month, time. The runner who completes 3 sensible runs every week for a year will almost always outperform the runner who trains brilliantly for a few weeks, then disappears due to fatigue, injury, or burnout. The power of good enough. One of the most underrated concepts in running is good enough. Many runners chase perfect, the perfect training week, the perfect pacing strategy, the perfect preparation. But perfection is fragile. Consistency is resilient. A good week completed is far more valuable than a perfect week that never happens. Sometimes a shorter run is enough. Sometimes an easy run is enough. Sometimes simply getting out the door is enough. Those weeks still count. Why easy running matters. One reason consistency wins is because easy running allows it. If every run becomes a test, training eventually becomes exhausting. Easy runs give your body the chance to recover while still building fitness. They allow you to stay healthy, absorb harder sessions, maintain momentum, and enjoy running. The runners who improve year after year understand this. They don't try to prove their fitness every day. They build it patiently. Think in months, not days. A common mistake runners make is evaluating training 1 run at a time. A bad session feels like a disaster. A great session feels like proof everything is working. Neither is usually true. Progress happens when you zoom out. 1 missed run doesn't matter much. 1 average week doesn't matter much. But 6 months of steady training, that changes everything. Consistency allows you to benefit from the compounding effect of training, and compounding is powerful. The parkrun lesson. Parkrun provides a perfect example. The runners who improve steadily aren't always the most talented. They aren't always the fastest trainers. They're often the runners who simply keep turning up week after week. They accumulate fitness. They learn pacing. They gain experience, and eventually the results follow. Not because they trained harder than everyone else, because they trained consistently. Your Sunday reset. Before the new week begins, ask yourself a simple question. What can I realistically repeat this week? Not what's possible on your best week, not what looks impressive on paper. What can you actually sustain? Maybe it's 3 runs. Maybe it's 4. Maybe it's simply getting back into a routine after a busy period. That's enough, because fitness isn't built by occasional heroic workouts. It's built by hundreds of ordinary runs done consistently. The secret isn't intensity. The secret is showing up again and again and again. That's what creates breakthroughs. That's why consistency beats intensity every time. The final kilometre, how to close your parkrun like a sub-20 runner. This week's Saturday Spark. Watch a runner break 20 minutes at parkrun and you'll notice something interesting. It's not usually the first kilometre that stands out. It's not even the halfway point. It's the final kilometre. While many runners are simply trying to hold on, sub-20 runners are often still racing. They're still moving forward, still focused, still committed, and that's often where the biggest difference is made. The final kilometre starts much earlier. Here's the secret. The final kilometre isn't won at 4 kilometres. It's won in the first kilometre. Sub-20 runners really produce strong finishes because they're tougher than everyone else. They produce strong finishes because they've paced the first 4 kilometres intelligently. They haven't spent all their energy too early. They've arrived at the final kilometre with something left to give. What a strong final kilometre looks like. A strong final kilometre isn't necessarily your fastest kilometre. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. What matters is that you're still maintaining form, holding effort, staying mentally engaged, and moving with purpose. Many runners confuse suffering with racing. Sub-20 runners understand that racing is about continuing to apply pressure when others are fading. The mental shift at 4 kilometres. One of the biggest differences between experienced runners and developing runners is what happens when discomfort arrives. At 4 kilometres, most runners think, I just need to survive. Sub-20 runners think, now the race begins. They expect discomfort. They don't panic when it arrives. Instead, they focus on posture, cadence, breathing rhythm, and maintaining momentum. The goal isn't to eliminate discomfort. The goal is to keep moving well despite it. 4 cues for a stronger final kilometre. When you hit the 4 kilometre marker, try focusing on these simple cues. Run tall. Lift your posture. As fatigue arrives, runners tend to fold at the hips and look down. Stand tall and create space for your breathing. Relax your shoulders. Tension wastes energy. Drop the shoulders, relax the hands, keep the upper body smooth. Quick feet. Don't try and push harder. Instead, think about quick, light steps. Cadence often drops when fatigue rises. Keeping the legs moving helps maintain pace. Focus on the runner ahead. Pick a target, not the runner 100 metres ahead, the runner 10 to 20 metres ahead. Then gradually reel them in. Small targets keep the mind engaged and prevent you from focusing on discomfort. The real goal. Most park runners spend too much time trying to start like a sub-20 runner. The better goal, finish like one. Anyone can run a fast first kilometre when they're fresh. Strong runners are the ones still racing when the finish line comes into view. Saturday Spark takeaway. When you want a stronger park run, pace the early kilometres with discipline. Expect discomfort in the final kilometre. Stay tall and relaxed when fatigue arrives. Focus on racing, not surviving. The final kilometre is where confidence is built. It's where PBs are protected, and it's where strong park runs become great ones. Finish with purpose this weekend. Friday Fast Track. Master your speed with the SEV Special VO2 Max workout. Some workouts have a rhythm that makes them memorable. The SEV Special VO2 Max session combines short, fast intervals with longer, sustained efforts, creating a workout that develops both speed and staying power. The shorter repetitions sharpen your leg speed and aerobic power, while the longer efforts challenge your ability to hold quality running when fatigue begins to accumulate. Today's workout. Warm-up, 10 minutes at level 2, easy, relaxed running. The main set is made up of 3 sets of 90 seconds level 5, 90 seconds level 1 to 2 recovery, then a further 90 seconds at level 5 with 90 seconds level 1 to 2 recovery, and then 3 minutes at level 5 with 3 minutes at level 1 to 2 recovery. 3 sets of that. Cool down, 10 minutes at level 2. Post-run, 10 minutes gentle stretching. Why this works for parkrun. This workout challenges your aerobic system from multiple angles. The shorter intervals allow you to repeatedly hit high-quality running speeds, while the longer 3-minute effort forces you to sustain that intensity for a more meaningful period. For park runners, this session helps you improve aerobic power, develop speed endurance, increase confidence at faster paces, enhance recovery between hard efforts, and build resilience when fatigue starts to build. The progression within each set also helps you practice settling into harder efforts rather than relying on pure speed alone. How should it feel? The 90-second efforts feel strong and controlled. The 3-minute effort feels demanding but sustainable. Breathing remains elevated throughout the set. Recovery allows partial reset without complete recovery. You should finish each set feeling challenged but capable of producing similar quality in the next one. My tip, treat the first 2 repetitions as preparation for the 3-minute effort. Stay relaxed, run smoothly, and avoid the temptation to race the shorter intervals. The quality of the final repetition in each set is what makes this workout so effective. Want to finish your next parkrun feeling stronger and more in control? Grab my free guide, Stronger for Parkrun, a quick routine to finish your 5K better. The link is in the description. It's a simple, effective strength session you can add after any run, including today's Friday fast track workout. The 4 types of parkrunners, and which one are you? Spend enough time around parkrun and you'll start noticing something interesting. 2 runners can have exactly the same finish time, but be taking completely different paths in their training. One runner is improving steadily, the other has been stuck for months. One runner is building towards future personal bests, the other is unknowingly holding themselves back. The difference often comes down to habits. Over the years, I've noticed that most recreational park runners tend to fall into one of 4 broad categories. None of them are right or wrong. Each type has strengths, each type has weaknesses. The key is recognizing your own tendencies so you can make better training decisions. Let's see which one sounds most like you. Type 1, the racer. The racer loves Saturday mornings. They arrive motivated. They have their barcode ready. They attack every parkrun as though it's a championship race. If there's a chance of a personal best, they're going for it. If there's no chance of a personal best, they're probably still going for it. Their strengths, highly motivated, competitive, consistent attendance, enjoys testing themselves. Challenges. The racer often turns every week into a fitness test. The problem is that fitness is built through training, not testing. When every Saturday becomes an all-out effort, recovery can suffer and training quality throughout the week often declines. What the racer needs. The racer usually benefits from treating some park runs as training runs. Not every Saturday needs to be a PB attempt. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is finish feeling like you've had more to give. Type 2, the grinder. The grinder works hard, very hard. Every run feels important. Every run feels productive. Every run feels moderately uncomfortable. The grinder rarely has a genuine easy day. Strengths. They've got a strong work ethic, committed, consistent, resilient. Their challenges. The grinder often spends too much time in the middle ground. Easy runs become too hard. Hard runs aren't hard enough. The result is accumulated fatigue without the training adaptations they are seeking. What the grinder needs. More contrast. Easy days should feel easy. Quality sessions should have a clear purpose. Recovery isn't weakness. Recovery is preparation. Type 3, the collector. The collector loves accumulating kilometres. They enjoy long runs. They enjoy consistency. They really miss a training session. If there's an opportunity to add another easy run, they'll probably take it. Their strengths, excellent aerobic development. Consistency, strong endurance, low injury risk. Challenges, the collector often avoids discomfort. Threshold sessions are postponed. Hill workouts are skipped. Race pace running becomes infrequent. Eventually they become very fit aerobically, but struggle to express that fitness at parkrun pace. What the collector needs, a little bit more quality, not necessarily more intensity, just enough quality training to convert aerobic fitness into performance. And type 4, the builder. The builder trains with purpose. They understand that every run doesn't need to be hard. They understand that every week doesn't need to produce a PB. They trust the process, strengths, structured training, long-term thinking, consistency, and patience. Their challenges, the builder's biggest challenge is often simply maintaining belief when progress slows, because progress always slows eventually. What the builder needs: keep doing what they're doing, stay patient, trust the accumulation of good training. The builder is often the runner who continues improving long after others have plateaued. Which one are you? Most runners won't fit perfectly into one category. In fact, many runners will recognize parts of themselves in several. That's completely normal. The real value comes from identifying your dominant tendency. Ask yourself, do I race too often? Do I run everything too hard? Do I avoid quality sessions? Do I train with clear purpose? The answers may reveal why your progress has stalled. The good news: none of these categories are fixed. You aren't permanently a racer. You aren't permanently a grinder. You aren't permanently a collector. You can change. And often small changes produce surprisingly large improvements. A racer who occasionally holds back. A grinder who learns to recover. A collector who introduces threshold training. Each can unlock a new level of performance. The goal isn't to train harder. One of the biggest misconceptions in running is that improvement comes from working harder. More often, improvement comes from doing the right things consistently. The fastest runners at parkrun aren't always the most talented. They're often the runners who've learned how to balance training stress and recovery over long periods of time. What type of runner are successful sub-20 parkrunners? Interestingly, most successful sub-20 parkrunners have characteristics of all four types. They have the competitiveness of the racer, the work ethic of the grinder, the consistency of the collector, and the structure of the builder. But if I had to choose one category that most successful sub-20 runners resemble, it would be the builder, because long-term improvement is really accidental. It's usually the result of purposeful, consistent training. Want to discover how close to a sub-20 you are? If your goal is to break 20 minutes at parkrun, the first step is understanding where you currently stand. That's exactly why I created the sub-20 parkrun blueprint. Inside, you'll discover the 5 habits shared by successful sub-20 parkrunners, the 3 key workouts that improve 5K performance, the Predictor workout that reveals whether you're within striking distance of breaking 20 minutes, and common mistakes that keep runners stuck above the barrier. Most importantly, you'll gain a clearer picture on what your next step should be. Download your free copy with the link in the description. Which type are you? Whether you're a racer, grinder, collector, or a builder, the goal is the same. Become a slightly better runner next month than you are today. The runners who achieve their goals aren't always the most talented. They're usually the runners who keep learning, keep adapting, and keep showing up. Ready to take the next step? Download the Sub-20 Parkrun Blueprint and discover whether you're within striking distance of your fastest ever parkrun. The link is down in the description. Parkrun Power Tip: master your warm-up timing for a better parkrun. Most runners understand that warming up before parkrun is important, but there's a detail that often gets overlooked. When you finish your warm-up can be just as important as the warm-up itself. Because if you finish too early, you can lose many of the benefits before the run even begins. The hidden problem: a common Saturday morning routine looks something like this. You arrive early, you jog for a few minutes, you do some mobility exercises, maybe a few strides, then you stop and wait. 5 minutes pass, then 10. By the time the briefing is over and the run starts, you've cooled down significantly. Your muscles are less prepared. Your heart rate has returned closer to resting levels, and suddenly the first kilometre feels much harder than it should. What a warm-up is trying to achieve. The goal of a warm-up is simple: increase blood flow to the working muscles, raise body temperature, prepare your cardiovascular system, improve movement efficiency. make the transition into race pace easier. But those benefits don't last forever. If there's too much time between finishing your warm-up and starting your run, your body begins reversing those adaptations. That's why timing matters. A better approach. Instead of treating the warm-up and the run as separate events, think of them as part of the same process. Ideally, your main warm-up should finish just before the briefing begins. That allows you to stay warm through the briefing and move directly to the start line. You're maintaining readiness rather than having to create it all over again. Why this helps the first kilometre. Many park runners struggle through the opening kilometre. The pace feels awkward. The breathing feels heavy. The legs feel sluggish. Often this isn't a fitness problem. It's a preparation problem. When your warm-up is timed properly, you begin the run already moving well. Your rhythm comes sooner, your breathing settles faster, and you can focus on pacing rather than simply trying to get comfortable. Stay moving. Even after the briefing, avoid standing completely still if possible. A little movement goes a long way. Walk around, shake out the legs, stay loose. You don't need to keep warming up aggressively. You simply want to avoid switching off completely before the start. A simple test for Saturday. At your next park run, pay attention to how much time passes between the end of your warm-up and the start of the run. If it's more than a few minutes, consider adjusting your routine. Move your warm-up later. Finish closer to the briefing and stay active until the start. Then see how the first kilometre feels. Bring it back to Saturday. A good warm-up prepares you for the run. A well-timed warm-up allows you to actually use that preparation. So next Saturday, don't ask, did I warm up? Ask, did I finish my warm-up at the right time? Because arriving warm, loose, and ready to run can make the entire park run feel smoother from the very first step. If you like a simple, repeatable warm-up routine you can use every Saturday, download Arrive Ready, the complete parkrun warm-up guide. The link is down in the description. 6 years for 1 second. Regan Hannett's Blenheim Parkrun Progress Report. This week's Parkrun Progress Report comes from Regan Hannett and his run at Blenheim Parkrun number 477 on 16th May 2026, where he ran a new personal best of 19:39. Now on paper that might not immediately sound dramatic. Why? Because his previous PB was 19:40. But that was set all the way back in 2020. So yes, technically the PB was only by a single second, but honestly, that 1 second tells a much bigger story. The context matters. For many runners, 6 years is a long time between PBs. In that time, life changes, work changes, injuries happen, motivation ebbs and flows, training consistency comes and goes. A lot of runners spend years trying to return to former fitness. Regan didn't just get back there, he went beyond it. And the way he achieved the PB is arguably more impressive than the time itself. This is what good pacing looks like. The first thing that stood out immediately was the pacing profile. Splits, first kilometre 3:59, second kilometre 3:52, third 3:52, fourth 3:53, and the final 710 metres was run at 3:52 pace. Honestly, that's beautiful pacing. After settling into the race with a controlled opening kilometre, Regan essentially locked onto pace and refused to give it away. A lot of runners chasing sub 20 run something like 3:45, 3:48, 4:05, 4:10, survival mode. Regan did the opposite. The opening kilometre was smart. The opening split of 3:59 wasn't conservative, it was controlled. There's a very important difference. Many runners chasing a milestone time try to bank seconds early. The problem is you almost always pay them back with interest later. Regan instead settled himself into the race, established rhythm, controlled the effort, then moved smoothly onto target pace. The next 3 kilometres suggest he judged that almost perfectly. 4 kilometres of precision. Look at this sequence. 3 minutes 52, 3 minutes 52, 3 minutes 53, and then 3 minutes 52 pace. That's almost metronomic. It suggests excellent race awareness, confidence and fitness, strong pacing discipline, and very good effort judgment. This wasn't emotional racing, this was execution. Cadence stayed stable throughout. Cadence of 166 SPM, 164, 166, 164, 162. Again, remarkably consistent. Very little mechanical breakdown and no signs of a runner fighting fatigue. The slight reduction late is tiny and likely not meaningful. This looks like someone who remained efficient throughout the run. The biggest positive, no fade. This is what I liked most about the performance. A lot of runners run PBs because they survive. Regan ran a PB because he executed. These are two very different things. This wasn't hanging on. This was knowing exactly what pace could be sustained and committing to it. That's a hallmark of a runner who is often capable of going faster again. Why this PB could lead to another one. The really encouraging part is that this run didn't look desperate. It didn't look like everything going perfectly, hanging on by a thread, completely emptying the tank completely just to scrape under an old PB. Instead, it looked controlled, repeatable, and sustainable. And those are often the performances that lead to a 1935, 1930, or even a 1920, because the athlete starts believing they belong at that pace. The lesson for runners chasing sub 20. A lot of runners think breaking 20 minutes requires aggression, bravery, and a huge early speed. Often it requires patience, restraint, rhythm, and discipline. Regan's run is a great example of that. He didn't waste energy chasing seconds early. He protected them throughout the entire 5K. The key takeaway? The fastest runners aren't always the ones who start quickest. They're often the ones who waste the fewest seconds over the entire 5 kilometres, and Regan wasted virtually none. Want help improving your own parkrun pacing? If you'd like help pacing smarter, racing more consistently, and building towards your next PB, Parkrun Kickstart is designed specifically for recreational runners wanting to improve over 5 kilometres. Join Parkrun Kickstart at the link down in the description. And if you'd like your own parkrun analysed for a future parkrun progress report, apply with the link in the description. Ka kite anō, and all the best for your next parkrun.